night while shopping for new red Louis Vuitton coats. An elite group of poker players, savants, and media avatars fought and toiled and burned the midnight oil to construct the best segment in all of sports. It's an honor and a privilege to present a special position groups edition of LIX Tiers. Wow.
Thank you.
I don't even know what this is exactly.
And since you brought it up, I'll just, to the audience out there, if anyone has that full-length red Louis Vuitton overcoat that they would like to sell to me or let me borrow for a few days next week, DM the show, because they're sold out everywhere.
I think I one in my closet.
I just hope 1,000 people, Gianna, yes, I have that.
We just need
$1,000 red
we just need one. I'd be thrilled if it were only $1,000, Kevin Wildes. This is price. The Chiefs making all these Super Bowls very expensive. Okay, here's how it works. There's 8 position groups. We're going to go through them all, and I'll tell you. Bottom, just be anonymous. The Chiefs running backs and the Eagles special teams. And here's what I mean by that. Chiefs running backs, just no fumbles. Patrick's going to take care of the ball.
Yeah.
No fumbles there. You have no turnovers. You don't lose the game. Eagles special teams is twofold. There's Jake Elliott, who has missed 8 kicks this year after missing 8 kicks the previous 3 years combined.
Oh, no.
And what have we seen this Chiefs playoff run? Kick return, punt return, big plays. Yep. Nico Remijo. What have we seen in the last Super Bowl against Philadelphia?
Yeah.
Kadarius Toney, Super Bowl champion Kadarius Toney, with the longest punt return in Super Bowl history. So just Philly special teams, just don't make any big mistake. Next, let me show it. The X factors. The quarterback for the Eagles and the linebackers for the Eagles, most notably Jalen Hurts and Zach Bond. Can Zach Bond put an exclamation point on what would be one of the most shocking single seasons for a player acquired via free agency for not a lot of money of the last decade? Like, nobody saw this coming, and Zach's going to have a hell of a responsibility patrolling the middle of the field against Kansas City. And then there's Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts has won 4 career playoff games. The NFC Championship game was the first time he had 160 yards passing in a win. The Chiefs are going to dare the Eagles to turn this into a drop-back passing game. If they do, and the Eagles take that dare, so to speak, can Jalen produce? If he can, the Eagles will be Super Bowl champions. Don't get highlighted. Chiefs offensive line, Eagles secondary, and the Chiefs linebackers. Here's what I mean. Chiefs offensive line. I love you, man. I don't want to hear Mike Caliendo's name on the broadcast except for the player intros. Because if we do, it's going because Jalen Carter has mush-faced him into the center of the earth, and he's coming after Patrick Mahomes.
That's going to happen.
Eagles secondary. Whether it's the rookies coach was talking about, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, who I was talking about, what you don't want to see is one of these guys either in single coverage against one of the Chiefs' speedy wideouts or nose-to-nose with Travis Kelce bumping helmets and Kelce falls backwards and all of a sudden flags. Chiefs linebackers is very simple. I can't see a spot shadow of Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry, and someone to the middle earth. I just can't. Just don't be highlighted. Do your job and be fine. One huge play. The Chiefs pass catchers, wide receivers, and tight ends. Coach talked about it for Travis. I'm going to talk about it more for Xavier. Can Xavier and Patrick connect on one of those go balls that they worked on all year in practice, which was on national television? Can DeAndre maybe, who's been very quiet this postseason, one catch, come through just one big third down or one red zone target for the Eagles defensive line? Talking to you, Nolan Smith. Talking to you, Jalen Carter. Strip sack? Can you make one game-changing, come-around-the-edge huge play? And for the Chiefs special teams, we already talked about Nico Remijo's returns. What if Harrison Butker makes another kick to win another Super Bowl? Listen, I don't know about kickers making the Hall of Fame or not. I do know his postseason resume. He needs one huge moment to match Vinatieri's postseason resume, not the longevity of the postseason resume.
Is that true, Coach?
It needs more than one.
Well, because your guy's kicker was Gostkowski for most of the run.
Not early.
I understand. Well, again, Hobbs put in the show of Vinatieri, Butker side by side. I wouldn't say it if it's not true. I wouldn't say it if it's not true.
Well, why have Jalen Hurts so low?
Well, that's opinion. This is about when I talk about historical comps. Elite with questions. The Eagles' offensive line and the Chiefs' defensive backs. Here's what we mean. Eagles' offensive line might be the best in football. However, Cam Jurgens and Dickerson, both injured in the conference championship game. One injured going into it, one injured during it, came back in the game. How healthy are they going to be? That's critically important. Chiefs secondary. Since Jalen Watson came back, you feel good about both corner spots. You feel good about Justin Reed at safety. Your second safety spot and your nickel corner have bedeviled this team all year. The Eagles, if they go 3 wide, are they going to be able to target, whether it's Joshua Williams or Shamari Connor, whomever it is? You like the overall, like the Eagles, you love their tackles, you love the overall talent of the line, you have questions about injuries. For the Chiefs, you have questions about the depth there, but it's an elite group. Game breakers, the Eagles pass catchers, and the Chiefs defensive line. AJ and Devontae Smith can score, as we talk about 60-yard Saquon touchdowns. Jalen is very good on those, if it's Russell Wilson, we call it moon balls. He doesn't put quite as much loft on it, but those deep down the sideline passes. Devontae is one of the more underrated players in the league. And Chiefs defensive line. Go ahead, Wild.
We said tight ends, too, around there.
Oh, yeah, I don't know that I would call Goddard a game breaker, but he's in the pass catcher group. Good job. Chiefs defensive line. Everyone knows Chris Jones. The thing is this, though. Chris Jones demands so much attention, he only has 3.5 career playoff sacks. Now he has game-changing pressures, and he also, like at the end of the Bills game, you slide protection, you double-team him, guys run free. Charles Omenihu, who was injured in the AFC Championship game last year, finally gets to play in a Super Bowl. George Karlaftis trying to get into the top 15 all-time in playoff sacks. Game breakers. GOAT season for Saquon. Could be. First, listen, if I know anything about America, we like big, round numbers. Nobody's ever had 2,500 yards in a season running the football. Saquon's going to get that. If he gets to 20, he has 20 touchdowns total, playoffs and regular season, gets to 2,500 yards, first player ever, and wins a Super Bowl MVP, it does become the gold standard season for running backs. And he would have done it in 16 games because he sat out the 17th game. So you have all that. Wilds, looks like you have something done.
No, we should go with a metric system then. Just nice and easy.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Wilds. I was right. It was dumb. And then finally, last but not least, not GOAT season, just GOAT. The Chiefs quarterback is the most dominant position group in this football game, and it is the reason, if you are picking the Kansas City Chiefs, why you are picking the Kansas City Chiefs. Despite the well-rounded nature of the roster, you just feel like if this guy has the ball in his hands and has a chance to win, he's going to win. Coach, it's the last tiers of the 2024 season. Say the one thing you haven't said all year, and say, this is the perfect tiers.
No.
Loser. Always got next year, boys.
Look, there's never a perfect game. You can have a great game. You can still win a Super Bowl without having a great game. So it's very good. And the issue I have is I understand the GOAT season, but I think Saquon is getting a little bit too much credit for how good this season's been, because I don't think he's Beyonce. You know, I think he's more Destiny's Child. We've seen him run with the Giants all those years. All those years. Outside of his rookie season, he had nowhere near this level of production.
That's what I was saying before.
Then he comes in and he's with this offensive line, and you've seen so many examples of how well blocked plays have been, and how many times Saquon's been into the secondary before he's touched. Now, he's explosive, and he can take advantage of those windows in ways that other guys can't, but the fact that he has as many negative and zero runs, which don't really get talked about, and now he's coupled with an offensive line that's given him a chance to get to these explosive plays. To me, I think it's got to be a collective, it's a group, as opposed to just him as the only lead singer.
Listen, I understand what you're saying. However, what's the phrase? Once bitten, twice shy. I have, some would say drastically underestimated Saquon's impact throughout the offseason and then going into this year. I understand what you're saying about the holes that have been open. It also does feel like that he's the only running back in the league that would have had this level of production with this team this year. They might have been good no matter what, but the 2000...
he had less per average carry than per carry average than
Derrick Henry. I understand, but it's not like Derrick Henry was in a bad situation. Derrick Henry's in a situation where you have the most deadly running quarterback threat of all time, and we're not taking away from him. I understand what you're saying.
When you're saying GOAT season.
What's the GOAT? Listen, are you saying Terrell Davis right now is a GOAT season? Saying his offensive line stinks? Where's Mark Schlereth? Where's the breakfast ball crew? You want to tell him that to his face? Where's Tom Nalen when you need him? Hey, you're good.
I've got I guess a cousin of what Coach is saying. Because look, when Walter Payton, those Bears teams for a lot of years were terrible. And it was all Walter Payton, and they had to focus on him, and he still was getting 1,800 yards a year. I get what Coach is saying.
Barry Sanders was like that too.
Yeah,
like water. If there was a crack, he'd find it.
I get that.
I guess I'm the Saquon guy.
So, and I love Saquon. I'm going, though, with the offensive line. I think the Eagles' offensive line, Tush Push Kings deserve more respect, should move up a tier.
Now you're talking
they are up a tier. Buffalo showed us. You can say, oh, the Tush Push, anybody can do it. No, anybody can't. All right? This offensive line, arguably the best in the league, as Nick said. They are the kings of the Tush Push. Then Jalen Hurts holds the ball a lot long, and so the offensive line, that's more work for them to do. And Saquon, and I thought Coach was going to steal my thunder. This is how many yards Saquon had before contact, and he led the league by a mile. 1,328 yards before contact. That's more than he ever ran for in his career. His career high was 1,312.
Some of that, though, is him finding the holes, being patient, and making guys miss.
I mean, I love Saquon, and I'm not trying to take anything away from him, but, I mean, like Derrick Henry was second. He's the only other one over 1,000, but he was 300-plus yards behind Saquon. So that offensive line, I just think it's elite. And it's going to be a huge part of this game. So I get what you're saying about the injuries.
Well, that's legit,
listen. But I'll move them up.
I totally agree with you that the offensive line is elite. I think that them, Detroit, and Buffalo were the three best offensive lines in football this year, and they might have the argument that they are the best. The problem is they are banged up. If 2/5 of your guys right now, are banged up, were hurt, and severely compromised in the last game they played, weren't practicing last week. Now, again, last week's kind of fake practices. We'll find out this week with the injury reports how healthy they really are. If they were fully healthy, Brew, I would have them higher. I think that is the biggest injury concern headed into this football game is the health of the Eagles center and guard. And is either one of them going to be severely compromised? Or are they both going to be a little compromised? That's, to me, problematic dealing with Chris Jones.
Let me take you behind the window of sports television. A lot of times, Super Bowl week leading up to the NBA Finals, World Series, say, hey, should we do a factor on, or a segment on the X Factor? And so I say, oh, that's an interesting segment idea. Because a lot of times in the history of sports, you've seen sort of someone unheralded, a substitute, who's that guy?
Larry Brown in the Super Bowl for the Cowboys.
Yeah, like, wow, came out of nowhere and was the most important player. So, but then it's like, do we really want to spend some time talking about people that know Scott Brocious for the Yankees? Should we really dedicate time to that? And you solved it by putting the quarterback as the X Factor. We're out of our minds. And as you know, I'm a fan of the comments because I serve the audience. Not like you guys, vice versa. You think the audience serves you? So I'm reading the comments, and there's a comment that I haven't addressed. And it's a shot at you, Brew, unfortunately.
Oh.
It was after the NFC Championship game. And do you remember your opening thesis statement? I feel bad putting you on the spot, but we have to serve the audience. You said something to the extent of, and I don't want to misquote you, so I'll just... Something to the extent of, it didn't feel like a 32-point victory.
Yes, I did say that.
It was a 32-point victory, in which Jalen Hurts had 4 touchdowns. If it was reversed, if the Commanders had won and Jaden Daniels had 4 touchdowns, we'd be like, what are we going to do about Jaden Daniels against the Chiefs? This guy's electric. This guy just keeps winning. This guy can do whatever it takes to win. But instead, it's Jalen Hurts like, X factor. Last time he played the Chiefs in the regular season, they were down 10 in halftime. He scored, I think he scored 2 in the game. I think he scored in both in the second half. Anyways, they won in Arrowhead, as you talked about. Last time in the Super Bowl, again, he had 4 touchdowns. We're going to have to wrap our heads around that fact that Jalen Hurts is indeed in the Super Bowl, does score touchdowns, maybe doesn't air it out, which he doesn't necessarily have to because he's kind of playing like Mahomes, everybody. They both aren't airing it out.
No, he's not playing anything like Mahomes.
Joe Burrow's
hold on. He's not playing anything like Mahomes. Here's why.
Running, defense.
He's going to show his graphic.
No, I'm not going to show the graphic.
No, wow.
Here's the thing. The reason people can feel however they want about whether the tush push should be allowed, not allowed. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion. Here's what I know about how people feel about the tush push. They mentally don't give Jalen Hurts the same credit for those touchdowns that guys get for other rushing touchdowns. I know it because the tush push touchdowns in the NFC Championship game, nobody walked out of that game feeling like Jalen Hurts had a dominant performance even though he had 4 touchdowns. The Super Bowl against the Chiefs, people do not bring up the fact that he had 2 tush push touchdowns. They bring up that he threw for 300 yards.
When Josh Allen dives over the pilot, wow. He's Superman.
By the way, Wilds, I think that some of that, for me, some of the Allen, like first player ever with 3 passing and 3 rushing touchdowns, there was a tush push little asterisk on that in my head, which is different than a guy from the 8-yard line surveying the field, not seeing anything, and running it in. So that's that again. Fair or not, I think that's how football fans view it, that they look at that as more of a team touchdown than a Jalen Hurts brilliant touchdown, even if it's not fair. As far as if Jaden had done whatever it is, man, if Wemby and Dalton Connect are playing in a game and Dalton Connect scores 50, it is going to be received with more tepid enthusiasm than if Wemby does. That is normal across sports. That guys that we think, now maybe you think we have it wrong on Jalen, we're going to talk about him in a minute. Guys that we think are budding future superstars, it is more wowing when it's like they're confirming what we believe about them, as opposed to good players who have a great game.
But this guy keeps confirming it. Like he's back in the Super Bowl. He just won the NFC Championship game. They put up 55 points, and I was like,
okay,
55 points. Like, okay.
We should.
I give the tush push a little bit. I take a little bit of the asterisk off of it after watching what happened in the AFC Championship game. I mean, there's another dominant guy who couldn't make it.
That's
work.
Totally fair.
And then it's like, okay, well, Jalen's.
I get that
really
it's a team, but he's the guy.
So I think the Eagles' ability to do the tush push and what it allows them to do on 4th down, Jalen deserves huge credit for because he's the quarterback who can do it. The fact that they have had a dozen 1st and goals from the ones this year and given Saquon the ball on one of them, and Jalen is just, they went and plays where I think they didn't have to do it. They do it, and then he gets those touchdowns that you then say he has the same amount of touchdowns as Mahomes. Look at him. They're the same player, which is one of the most ridiculous things anyone's ever put on Twitter or said on television.
100% success rate. Why wouldn't you do it?
I would imagine, I don't know how Brew feels, that running Saquon Barkley behind Lane Johnson on 1st and goal from the 1 would have a very high success rate.
Okay.
Higher than the tush push?
Higher than 100%?
Probably not higher than the tush push, but high.
Maybe the same as the tush push. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.